2008, I was 23 to 24 years old. This year, I continued working on my multimedia degree. It's an associate's degree in multimedia. I kind of wished it was a bachelor's degree, kind of like a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, because I knew it would make more money. But I figured associate's degree would be alright. It would at least be some kind of degree that could help me obtain a job, and at least something that I would be good at and enjoyed. I always enjoyed being creative. I felt like I was going in a better direction compared to electrical engineering. However, I still hated school. I hated the feeling of being under pressure and trying to earn a grade. I knew I generally don't do well under pressure in general. I sometimes wondered if digital media was the right field too. I knew that if I was having trouble doing homework, got stressed, and didn't enjoy doing it, that was probably going to happen at a job too in this field. I've always enjoyed doing this kind of stuff as a kid, but I was beginning to not enjoy it as much now because I felt like it was work instead of play. I felt like I couldn't just be creative. I felt like when a performance grade was attached to it, it was more just work, and it was more like following guidelines. I thought about other fields to get into, but I wasn't sure what to do. Most fields that I thought about in the top of my head seemed tough to handle too. The struggle of paying attention, understanding directions, and having a slow comprehension speed, and having struggle with memory that I was constantly would forget when following directions, made me realize that pretty much going into any kind of field would be hard. I decided that since I'm talented at art, at least, digital media was still the way to go though. I feel like a lot of my struggles in school just isn't my learning disability, but also the school system and college as well. I feel the way schools and colleges set things up make it hard for me to learn. I think the way education is set up around the world could be improved a lot. I feel like we need better teachers. We don't need better facilities, and we don't need more money. What I believe the education system needs more than anything else is a curriculum that is focused on teaching where the subject is taught in the most easy to understand and interesting way possible. I feel like all the teachers in the schools I've been to, except for 7th grade, teaches things very poorly. It's very dry. And it's kind of hard to understand because it's dry. I always have to seek a tutor because the way teachers teach. I notice teachers quickly explain a concept in one way and then they suddenly move on to the next. I think part of the reason why this happens is because some teachers don't want to take the effort to really explain things. If a teacher would take the extra minute to explain it more ways and maybe give an better example, I think maybe I would get it, in spite of the fact that I have a hard time following directions. This would save me the extra hours of trying to understand a poorly written textbook and chase a tutor. I have always wondered why teachers often don't use different teaching styles. You know, not every person learns the same way. There are 3 different learning styles: visual, kinesthetic, and auditory. Teachers mostly focus on an auditory learning style when they teach. I'm definitely not an auditory person at heart. When teachers don't use visuals, show examples, or maybe you have hands-on learning in the curriculum, I don't learn it well. Why don't teachers use visuals, show examples, or maybe even have more hands-on learning in the curriculum? It doesn't take expensive technology to do that. It's all can be done easily by the individual. I honestly couldn't find anything more boring than listening to a monotonous lecture in class. Concepts can be taught in ways that are more interesting to students, and I don't think it's that hard that's hard to set up and be executed. Why don't teachers use real life examples that people can relate to, like working in a job? I can relate to that, you know. Anybody can relate to that. Why don't teachers emphasize the importance of what you're about to learn? Even in college, they don't really use real job examples of the concepts they teach. Wouldn't you find something interesting if you knew how important it was? Hello, class. Do you like money? I thought so. Well, I'm about to teach something that will help you learn how to use the money so you can buy things like candy. It's called addition and subtraction. That would sure get first graders' attention and interest. I feel like what I've learned in digital media classes aren't going to really help me find a job yet. At least that's what I've found so far. I've learned some Adobe programs that help me, design graphics. Great. How about teaching me how to find a job in this field? What can I expect in it? Or how can I communicate with my clients? I need to learn that too. Teachers seem to focus more on the book stuff and just the programs, and I feel like I'll eventually forget it anyway. I remember very little calculus from Kettering. This spring, I had a week off of school. I was very happy, of course. I decided to go on a road trip to Florida. I wanted to look at the power lines down there, and I wanted to see what they look like in Tampa. The road trip ended up being amazing, and I drove 600 miles all in one trip, all in one non-sleep waking session. What made the road trip really amazing was realizing how unique the state of Florida is. Really, its location. Florida sticks 300 miles out into the ocean. The feeling of being on land that far out in the ocean, surrounded by peninsulas with ocean that goes for miles in every direction, is something I can't really put words to. While I drove through Orlando, I realized how amazing it was to know that this city was at least 100 miles out from the mainland and surrounded by unending ocean on both sides. This gave me this feeling that was almost crazy. I played this one song by YouTube called Unforgettable Fire and felt that rush of yellow circles all over my body, and it felt amazing. I realized I loved Florida, and now I considered it a sacred place.